So today I want to discuss La Vida Loca, um, Days in LA, Always Running, Louis J. Rodriguez. This book right here is a phenomenal book. I just recently finished it. Um, what I want to talk about is that the reason how I got into this book, Always Running, was that I was doing Latino studies and Chicano studies, Native American studies, and each one of those terms or phrases I say with respect because when you're studying another person's culture, you don't want to be in a situation where you unknowingly say something that's offensive. So let me start off by saying that. But also, I am a traveler. This weekend, I am going to be traveling to Latin America. I'm going to the country of Cuba. And I've been to Cuba many times. I have friends in Cuba. I've been to Puerto Rico, Colombia, Jamaica, St. Lucia, and I've been very, very close to going to Mexico, but I haven't actually stepped foot in Mexico, but I spent a lot of time on the border towns and border cities of Mexico. So I chose this book by Louis Rodriquez, Always Running, because I was reading another book about the other slavery, Native American, the untold story of Native American slavery, and by Andres Resendez. And so when I was reading that story, it went from the very beginning with the silver mines and the formation of the Spaniards conquering Mexico and Latin America. Then it ended with California, the border towns of New Mexico, and it was bringing up a lot of border town cities like Sinaloa, Chihuahua, and things of that nature, Juarez. And it was talking about the reason why a lot of these places are the way that they are is because of what occurred during the colonial period, right? And so their work was exploited. These people were forced to work in these haciendas, and they were forced to have to work in these harsh environments, and honestly they were never really compensated for it. Then with the Spanish American War, you have the United States annexing all of these countries, and a deal was made for $15 million with the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, where they had to give up all of these other territories and the United States expanded in size, right? Now, these are all things that most people of a certain age or that study a little bit know, but we don't often think about the impact it had on the people. So in this story, he is the children of immigrants, and they immigrate from Juarez to El Paso, from El Paso to Los Angeles, and they end up living in South San Gabriel. And he talks about growing up in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and it's a coming of age stories. He ends up joining an organization at the age of 11, and he talks about the things that he experienced. It's a very touching read. He talks about the girls that he met, the coming of age, and in some ways it seems as though at the age of 14, 15, 16 years old, this guy was living the life that a lot of people in their 30s or 40s don't live. And it is also a heartbreaking story in a way, because he's also in the new introduction reflecting on his son that's doing 20 years in prison. And so he talks about in the introduction the things that he experienced and how he felt as though he felt as a father and how it impacted his son. Conversely, in the book, he details his experience, and then he talks about the moral rantium of during the Vietnam War protests. He talks about organizations and so his social activism and the organizations he joined in the civil rights era. He talks about uh being a part of this syndicate, getting arrested several times, violence. He talks about the intercourse and the things that he had and the heartbreaks that he suffered. And lastly, he goes into saying that the same group that he spent his life trying to protect and rep, at the end of the story, it comes back to haunt him. And that was very touching also. And so ultimately, I have to choose my words carefully because, I don't want to say anything that's offensive. And at the same time, I don't want to give too much of the story to where a person wouldn't want to read it. But it is, I would rate it on this. First of all, it's a page turner. So I would rate this book off out of 5 out of 5. I'll probably give it a 5, honestly. The characters are colorful. The way he tells the story is a page turner. I got so deeply involved in the book that I didn't want to put the book down. It ends with him talking about the 1992 riots in Los Angeles with the Rodney King situation. He reflects on the power dynamics between the rich and the poor. And he ultimately believes that the organizations that rose up and were later exterminated, he says that had they had resources, they wouldn't have not turned to the lifestyles that they turned to, that they were forced to do certain things because of lack of resources, not being able to have adequate education, not having adequate resources for medicines or food or clothing. And so ultimately, that's the reason why they chose La Vida Loca. But he talks about steering the new generation away from that. A great read. I was very impressed with this book.